Right. Good afternoon. It's now 5 p.m. Calling the meeting of the Calvert County Police Accountability Board to order. This meeting is being recorded, and we do have a quorum of the board here, so we can start. You have the agenda in front of you. Do you have any? The only item really we have on the agenda tonight is the review of the end of year report. And of course, we'll have public comment if there's anyone who would prefer to comment. And I have a few comments to give you an update as the chair. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll approve the agenda.
And Suzanne?
I'll second her motion to approve the agenda.
So who made the motion?
Susan.
Susan and Suzanne. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The motion has been made and second. Any discussion on the approval of the agenda? All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one? Okay. Under the chair's update, first I want to start off by asking all of us to keep Senior Deputy James A. Flint and his family in our thoughts and prayers. His condition has improved since he went in Saturday night. However, he has a long way to go to recover. He's still in critical condition, but he's starting to stable right now. So I've been trying to keep getting updates on that. Senior Deputy Flint was shot on Saturday night, and let's keep him him and his family in our prayers. Since our last meeting, we've had two meetings of the Administrative Charging Committee. We've reviewed 18 cases, I think, or 20 cases, Liz. 20 cases, I think, right?
20.
Yeah, we've reviewed 20 cases, and our next meeting is on January 23rd, 2023. This is the ACC.
January.
What did I say?
January 11th. I'm sorry.
January 11th. January 11th, 2023. And so now we have, we know we had this in place, but we've kind of overlooked it at the beginning. Once the ACC receives the results of the investigation of a complaint, it has 30 days to review and decide or request additional information if necessary. So we should be caught up. Matter of fact, we're pretty much caught up right now. But I know we'll be caught up by the January 11th meeting. So, Suzanne, I think last time you asked, okay, how we're responsible for recommending improvements to policy and procedures. How do we get some of that information? And what we're doing as the ACC is looking at each of these cases, if they are recommending any process improvement or policy improvements, the PAB will get the results. Matter of fact, PAB will get the summary results of all the cases, but they'll also highlight where there are opportunities to improve the process. So that's how we'll get a lot of that information so that we can meet with law enforcement to review that. Okay, with that,
thank you.
Any questions before we get started with the end of year report? Any comments? It's the old business report. Hearing none? Okay. Liz, if you could bring up the presentation.
Yes, sir.
We'll just go through each slide at a time. You got the first slide. I think there's at least one update since you received it, and you may have some more updates as we go through this. Next slide's the purpose. And the purpose is to present an annual end of year report to the Board of County Commissioners, BOCC, and the citizens of Calvert County on the Police Accountability Board and the Administrative Charging Committee inaugural accomplishments. So we've added draft to this so that it'll stay there until we have an official copy to present. So that's the purpose. Next slide. I don't think it's. So Scott Deacon will also be there, and as I mentioned at the last meeting, anyone who wants to attend this presentation to the Board of County Commissioners, you're all welcome to be there, and I'll introduce you if you're there. Okay, next one. Background. It's just it'll give the board a brief summary, since we do have 60% of the board that are new. The Resolution 722 created the PAB and the ACC and the trial board. Human Resources begins the application process, forming a citizen review and nominating committee. Now, this was unique to Calvert County. Calvert County had a citizen review and nominating committee to look at the applications and to make recommendations in terms of recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners to appoint members of the PAB, one member of the trial board, and three members of the ACC. Some of the other, at least I know two of the other local jurisdictions did not use this process. So when they had to add the additional members, they had to actually advertise and go through it. And some of them may not even have their ACC in place yet. I know Anne Arundel was actually interviewing in October, so they may just have their ACC in place. The board appointed 8 members on June 28th. The PAB, 2 of the ACC, and 1 trial board. On July 1st, of course, was the effective date of the Maryland Police Accountability Act of 2021. August 2nd, the BOCC appointed the 9th member of the PAB. And we had our first meeting on August 10th. And at that meeting, in the exec session, we appointed 2 members to the ACC and 1 member to the trial board. Next. And here, just a list of the members on the board and their terms. So just keep in mind, we have three Lisa, Alfonso, and Susan. Your term is up in the end of June, so you'll be, I think the process is you would apply for a full term, and we would probably make recommendation. We'll talk about it as a board and probably send a letter of recommendation. So that's the staggered terms of the board. Next slide. Responsibilities. I'll briefly go over the responsibilities that we all probably have it all memorized by now. We receive complaints of police misconduct filed by the public. We hold quarterly meetings with heads of law enforcement agencies to improve matters of policing and review the outcomes of disciplinary matters considered by the charging committee, and the end of year report that we're required to submit every year. Next. Accomplishments. We actually had quite a few accomplishments. We were ahead of the state in terms of putting the foundation in place so that we could accept complaints from the public via the website, and we developed and had approved the complaint form, and then we implemented that form on the website so that citizens could submit their complaints. Of course, they can also submit those complaints to the law enforcement agency. We also designed a logo for the Police Accountability Board, and we created a complaint tracker which will give the public the ability to go online and track the status of their complaint in terms of whether it's pending, under investigation, forwarded to the ACC. So that information is available on the website to the public. We also developed the citizen complaint process, and that process, proud to say, the Police Standards and Training Commission is using the flow chart that we put together and as part of their training. I'll go into a little more detail on that process as we go through. Any questions so far? Okay. Next is the online tracker. This will probably be pretty close to an eye test. We may have to make it a little bit bigger for the board to see. There's at least one line of it or something to show what information we have on here, the date received, the complaint number, the primary complaint, sort of a summary of that, the investigating agency complaint number. This would be the complaint number assigned by in our case, the sheriff's office. The investigation agency, in our case, is the sheriff's office on these. Investigation status, the disposition, if it's gone all the way through the process. We had several that went through the process before the ACC was actually able to qualify to look at the cases. And that's why there's the other column here, the ACC disposition. Each one of these cases going forward, you'll see something here. It may or may not be consistent with the investigation disposition. Complaint disposition date and any corrective action recommended. So that's very helpful for us to use and also for citizens to track their complaints. So they'll be able to track complaints that came in through the website and also complaints that came in through the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office will forward their complaints to us in this summary so we can also track those. Okay, next one. Summary of complaints. When we met on August 10th, maybe before the meeting or after, we received our first complaint that day. And since July 1st, a total of 36 complaints were received as of 16th. And Sheriff's Office, county staff, and PAB chair developed a secure electronic process for investigating the files to be shared with the ACC. And what that includes is that we have a secure drive. It's called a Q drive. We also have computers that are specifically configured for the ACC folks, ACC committee. So we have a secure way to exchange information between the sheriff's office and the ACC. And that's been very helpful and timely in order to get access to videos. Takes a lot of time to look at these things. Some of these cases actually take quite a bit of time to look at, hours, if you will, in order to just look at. Sometimes there are at least 3 or 4 hours worth of just videos you got to look at, and then you got all the other documentation too. The ACC reviewed and acted on, I'm looking at the old one, 20 complaints, 13 cases not administratively charged. That means no further action is necessary. 7 cases continued as requested, as request for further information. So as we request information, the sheriff's office has been responsive in terms of getting that information to us so that we can continue to review the case before we come up with a decision. So one of the things I want to point out here is that as we go through these cases, the one major milestone we hit is, are we going to administratively charge or not? If we are not going to administratively charge, and the ACC agrees with that as a committee, that's the end of that case. So there will be no disciplinary action. There may be some recommendation in terms of improvements to the process, but no disciplinary action. If the committee decides to administratively charge the officer in this case, what happens is we then go to what's called the state of Maryland disciplinary matrix, which is used by all local jurisdictions and there's different categories and aggravating and mitigating circumstances that we use to come up with the level of disciplinary action that should be administered. Next. One of the things that we did early on in the process was to find out who needed training and when the training would be provided. Early on in the process, there was a discussion as to whether the PAB needed training or the ACC. It was decided that the PAB did not need training and the ACC needed not just the 2 days that we're talking about, but they said now it's 5 days. So we were, thanks to Liz and her coordination at the state level, we were able to get to be the first class of trained group of ACC committees, the Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's. We hosted the training in Calvert County, included St. Mary's and Charles, and we also had 2 days. The trial board had 2 days of training just prior to the ACC getting trained. So they continue to train the ACCs around the state. I'm not sure whether they've completed all of that training yet or not. To go to the next slide, there's the accomplishments. Just to briefly go over some of the accomplishments. The PAB held 4 meetings since July 1st. A quarterly meeting and presentation of current policy and procedures with law enforcement agencies, the Maryland State Police, and the Calvert County Sheriff's Office. PAB ACC MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the state's attorney, Robert Harvey's office, and that's been approved in the process. And by the time we present this, I'm sure all the signatures would be there. We also developed bylaws that were approved by the PAB, and we're recommending approval to the BOCC. Attendance, introduction, and dialogue with the sheriff-elect at our meeting in November. And by the time we have this presentation, there should be a follow-up meeting with me, the sheriff, and also the ACC chair, Scott Deacon. Excuse me. Next, talk a little bit about the Administrative Charging Committee. 5 members. They served for 3 years. And as the chair of the PAB, I serve on the Administrative Charging Committee, or I could designate someone to serve on it on my behalf. Currently, I'm serving on that. The responsibilities of the ACC is to review findings. You can switch that. Review findings of a law enforcement agency's investigation, determine whether or not to administratively charge the police officer who is the subject of the investigation. If the police officer is charged, we recommend discipline in accordance with that officer's agency's disciplinary matrix. I think that's the state matrix. Right, Liz?
I'll
not
mark that.
it's not the agency. It's the same one that's used throughout the state. We need to update that. Issue a written opinion that describes in detail its findings, determination, and recommendations. Forward the written opinion to the chief of the law enforcement agency, the police officer, and the complainant. The trial board, serving on the trial board, retired Judge Larry Lampson. Stephanie Deals also serving on. That's the person that we appointed back in August. And a police officer of equal rank would be selected if there is an appeal to the trial board. Responsibilities of the trial board: the officer appeals decision by the ACC to the trial board for a hearing. If they're not satisfied with the disciplinary action administered by the ACC, they would appeal it to the trial board. The trial board would review it, hear the case, and make a decision. And I would go over the flow of the process here that you have laid out here. I think you're all familiar with that, so I'm not going to go through that in a lot of detail. But what I want to point out before we get into the goals and the question piece, I want to also add that a lot of work in this overall process of establishing the PAB, the ACC, and the trial board was done prior to July 1st. There were hearings done. The public had input. I think at least three hearings, right, John? John?
Yes, sir. At least 5 hearings.
5.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to mention that too to the commissioners, that there were at least 5 hearings. We received input from the public that helped structure what the state intended with this Police Accountability Act. There have been also weekly meetings before July between the county attorney's office and the human resource folks, and then subsequently with the executive assistant and the risk management person from HR. We continue to have those meetings on Thursday every other week now, and we also have weekly meeting between the chairs of the Police Accountability Board and the Administrative Charging Board. So there's a lot that goes on outside of those meetings. Also, we have staff support during the meetings, technology services. We have communication and media relations. The county attorney plays an active part in terms of not only keeping us straight, but also the support that's necessary to facilitate the decision-making process of the PAB side, and also that the cases that are decided on the ACC side, that they are legally sufficient in terms of the decision process and also the results that we came up with. So we really appreciate all the support that we're getting and the citizens of Calvert County are getting from staff. The goals for 2023, and I want to talk a little bit about the goals of 2023 because the first half of the latter half of 2022, we had an election, so we had a change of sheriff. So we did not want to make any recommendations in this report because we wanted to make sure we get the new sheriff on board, and then we work together in order to improve or make the changes that are necessary in our law enforcement agency. So for the goals of 2023, continue to provide the citizens of Calvert County the ability to file complaints of police misconduct and a transparent complaint process. Build a relationship with local law enforcement. We are building the relationship now with the sheriff change. We'll continue that relationship. I'm optimistic with us working together for the citizens of Calvert County. Continue to improve matters of policing and review outcomes of disciplinary action considered by the charging committee to determine whether a change is needed in policy or any additional services or support that the law enforcement agency may need. And then at that point, I'll open it up for questions from the board. And this would be, of course, the commissioners. If you are there on the slide where we show your name, I'll introduce you if you're there. So comments? All right, board.
I think it's a great presentation.
Thank you, Suzanne. John?
I'd say it's a great job putting it all together and making it understandable. With that one slide with the reference to the matrix.
Okay.
It is the local law enforcement agency's matrix, but I put in the comments, each law enforcement agency shall adopt the uniform state disciplinary matrix. So it's uniform throughout the state, but it does have to be adopted by the local agency.
Okay.
So if you want to make changes or not, it's up to you.
Okay. Maybe we'll put in here, Liz, based on the statewide matrix. Something like that. We'll look at it. We'll look at that bullet. See what we need to do to change it. Okay. Can they make changes to it, John? The local agency? Or they just have to adopt it?
That's why I put the statutory language in the comments. It says they shall adopt.
Okay. Okay. All right. Brian?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the presentation. I think it's remarkable how much work has been accomplished so far, and you did a great job, or this group did, of putting together everything that has been accomplished so far. And we are so far ahead of other counties based on my discussions, especially on the Eastern Shore in Western Maryland, where they're just getting enough people through the training or just getting people on the board itself. So kudos to everyone involved for this excellent report.
Thank you. What you just reminded me of something, Brian. Scott Deacon and I have talked about offering any kind of assistance to other counties that need to get up to speed or want to be more familiar with some of the things we've done. So that might be a possibility going into next year. And the training and standards, police standards and training commission also, they're aware that we're willing to go out if anyone needs help. Any other comments? Okay, so we'll enhance this and polish it a little bit more, and it'll go out. We'll send it to the county administrator's office for the commissioners so that we get it in on time the end of this year. And then, Liz, I don't know whether is it the 4th of January looking good or not?
Yes, the 24th of January is looking good.
Okay. So as we nail that down, let's get the information so we can get on that agenda. I think what I did over the weekend, I drafted one of those one-page letters. I'll send it to you and John to look at, requesting, the one-page summary, the background, the discussion, and recommendation.
I believe
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I believe we have questions from Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Jones.
Okay. Quentin?
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see all y'all's faces. Sorry I wasn't on camera tonight, but I'm glad to see everybody else's face at least. I second everybody's motion on the presentation as well, Mr. Perrin. And you mentioned it, but that was one of my questions. Since the other our like the Tri-County area and the other boards are a little bit behind us, what opportunities exist for us to to partner with them to help them along? And also, do you envision in our January meeting including Sheriff Cox at all in our upcoming meeting, just to kind of introduce him to everyone and so that we can hear from him? Or is that something that you see in a little further down the road?
You mean when I present to the board for county commission?
No. Not, I'm sorry, not the board meeting. I'm talking about our meetings with our meetings and including Sheriff Cox in any of those meetings.
Okay.
I know, January 24th is your meeting with the Board of Commissioners.
Right.
But just us meeting with Sheriff Cox.
Yeah, our meeting is in February, but we did on November 30th. He came in. And we did meet him on November 30th. When we meet in February, perhaps he will have a little more information for us in terms of some of his early plans, and it'll be an opportunity for him to come in. Yeah, we'll invite him.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, November was the meeting that I missed, so I apologize for that.
No problem. Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
It's already been stated. As I sat through these meetings, I said, a lot of work is coming out of these meetings, and I know I've done just a tiny bit, just a smidgen compared to what has come out. So somebody's working real hard behind the scenes and very diligently. So my hat goes off to you, and kudos to you and the staff for what you guys have done behind the scenes. It's a lot of hours I can see based on what comes out of these meetings, and keeping us in line on the emails is just a lot of work. So I thank you and I appreciate you for everyone for what you've done. My question is, having served in law enforcement for a number of years, many of my fellow officers are now serving on the PAB or the ACC. So I've received numerous calls once they heard that I've been appointed for the PAB in Calvert County, and they're asking, what can you provide? We're just getting started. We're way behind. You guys are on the cutting edge. So what, if any protocol do we have in place for responding to people like that? Or should I bring it to you or whomever and see what we can do to help these people?
Yeah, I would appreciate your comments. I would suggest that we funnel those calls or emails into Liz. Liz received a lot of those calls today.
Okay.
And then she can get it up, put it out to where it needs to go to. For example, the League of Women Voters has requested someone to come out at some point to talk about the overall process in Calvert County. But yes, if there's another jurisdiction, and I think we have talked about one, let Liz know, and Liz can either contact us or contact John or whoever needs to be contacted to see what we can do to help them.
Okay.
I would hate to have them reinvent the wheel,
right,
when they have the experience in going through a lot of the things. Now, some will be a little bit different in terms of dealing with a charter form of government where you do have a police department and a sheriff's office and local jurisdiction, the town police, like Prince George's. But the foundation pretty much is the same in terms of what they need to put in place.
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other comments? If not, let's see if the public, we're having a public comment at this point. Let me read what we have here on the agenda. Public comment. While all views and perspectives are welcome during public comment, please be aware that speakers are personally responsible for their own expressions and comments. It is recommended that speakers refrain from commenting on unsettled claims or complaints and refrain from using names where possible. The PAB will accommodate public comment in person or by phone. Individuals who participate virtually should call or log on in advance. Participants may call toll-free 888-475-4499 or 877-853-5257. Meeting ID 862-4036 -9411 and passcode if ask 194530. Speakers, whether in person or participating virtually, will be limited to 2 minutes as individuals or 5 minutes if the designated representative of an organization. So if you have public comments, give us your name and your location if you have that. Or you have your name. Any public comment?
Sorry, sir. I'm running both Zoom and Teams off one small laptop, so it takes a minute to go back and forth.
We
There
currently
is
have
nobody
no one
on
in the Zoom meeting.
Zoom other than myself and technology services, so there is no public comment.
Okay. Then the last meeting, there was sort of a glitch in the Zoom connection. We did have a hack into that, and we forward that to the technology services folks, and I think they have the right settings now to prevent that from happening in the future. So I want to thank the technology services folks and John and everyone involved in resolving that issue. So if there's nothing else to come before the board, I'll say all of you have a nice holiday. Merry Christmas. Have a very nice holiday, and hopefully you'll get a chance to visit some family, friends, and just enjoy and relax. And we actually meet again as a board in February. So if things come up and you have a concern, just let me know if we need to meet emergency or if there's something you may want an update on. And since we're not meeting in January, I'll send out an update as things happen between now and our February meeting. So happy holidays to all.
You too.
All right.
You as well.
Take care.
Thank you.
I know I need a
Merry
motion.
Christmas. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy
I need
holidays.
a motion to adjourn.
Enjoy your holidays.
Motion.
Motion by
second.
Brian to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Quentin. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I don't think there's anyone that's opposed at this point. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great
Bye.
holiday, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.